All right, welcome to Enterprising People. We want to thank the Southern Nevada Water Authority as well as Power 88, KCEP, and Las Vegas Black Image Magazine. Listen, we just finished the June edition, and wonderful Robert Smith is on the cover, who paid it forward and took care of all of the Morehouse graduates' debt, school debt. So we're really happy to have an exclusive on Mr. Smith in the June issue of Las Vegas Black Image Magazine, as well as we're celebrating our fathers here in Las Vegas, as well as our graduates, and we salute you. Now, without any further ado, we just want to bring up our author that's written a wonderful book. It's Mark Dio, and his book is called "It's Not Mama and It's Not Mama." That's black. It's not mommy and daddy's business anymore. Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Hello there.
Hey, it's going wonderful, wonderful. Listen, what a title. It's not mommy or daddy's business anymore. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Sure, absolutely. Well, this book is, my dad, started a family business, and I've always thought that it was an interesting family business, and it turned out I ended up having lots of clients who were family businesses, and I didn't really kind of go after that. I realized I did about 15 years ago, almost 17 years ago, and so I began to specialize in that area, and I discovered there are a lot of commonalities with family businesses, particularly, all of them, but particularly the larger ones as they grew. They didn't have the level of sophistication that other sort of partnerships or corporate type of businesses, public companies had, but yet they were extremely successful. And I thought, wow, that's really kind of interesting. Why is that? And a lot of it has to do with behaviors, and some of those behaviors not so good. As the subtitle says, how family member behavior can ensure family business success. And so I began to realize behavior precedes performance. And, so I decided I was going to write a book about that, and here it is.
All right. Well, we're glad that you wrote the book because, the rule in business has always been don't do business with family or friends. And so how do you counter that?
Well, I think that obviously there are some family and friend relationships that don't work out, but a lot of it has to do with the behaviors that we decide to, abide by, Kimberly. Not so much the relationship, but, in terms of being relatives or even being friends for that matter, but how we treat our friends and relatives. And so if we're easier on our friends or relatives, that doesn't work out so good. Actually, that doesn't work out so good for any type of employee, whether they're related to us or not, right? If we're tougher on them because they're our friends or family, well, that doesn't work out so good either. And again, it doesn't work out so well for team members who aren't related to us. So, we want to be fair with people. We want to treat everyone with the same kind of empathy and respect. But we also, want to have the same kind of accountability. We don't want to hold one person more accountable or less accountable than another. And unfortunately, that does happen more often in families with family members. And I think that's where that nepotism issue comes from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And as you're talking, I was just thinking about the micropreneur and a lot of people that just, start their businesses from, let's say, a home-based situation, usually involve family because of economic reasons. Do you find that to be true, that small businesses usually have family members, especially board members, because, you don't want to get voted out of your own company. But I know that's been kind of the status quo. But what do you think about that? Do you find that more startup businesses are involving families?
Well, you bring up an excellent point because the micropreneurs, the smaller businesses that start off with a husband and wife or the family where you can get by without paying them a whole heck of a lot of money because, well, heck, dinner. Business gets done around the dinner table. And then you go to the garage to put stuff together to ship out and pack it up, right? And lots of big businesses started in that very same fashion. But again, it comes down to how we treat the people as employees or as team members of the business. And sometimes that has to be quite different from the way we might treat them as brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, daughters, significant others. And that's what's hard. It's very hard for a leader or leaders in a family business, even a very small one. Let's just say mom is leading the business, and she has dad and the kids and maybe even some nephews and nieces involved, right? In the business, and so she might be hesitant to hold some of those folks accountable because their personalities might be very effusive and outgoing and maybe even controlling. She doesn't want to counter that. She might be very analytical and feel like, well, I'm not going to counter that, and that's where the mistake can be made. Or she might be she herself might be controlling. Other people might be very submissive, and they might end up being resentful. So these are the kind of things that happen in family businesses easier and faster than they would in a business where no one is related in any way.
Yeah. I think we all know those negatives, especially as it relates to pathologies, things that have been handed down. And then saying, okay, we know we have all this junk in our trunk, but I'm still going to make you a part of my business. So it's really a tremendous risk, correct? Like if involving.
It is a risk if we don't recognize that our behavior impacts the performance of others, whether they're related to us or not. And when they are related, there's more of a chance of our behavior impacting them. So if we can manage our behavior as a leader, and this book is particularly written to leaders, family business leaders, whether they're whether the owners or the de facto leader of the business, or maybe they're part of a leadership team. It's particularly aimed at them. You'll notice that this book also has sort of a story in it, the story of the Drummonds, this electrical supply company, and it's an illustrated story that talks about all their junk in their trunk. I like that, and how they relate. But it is how they end up treating one another at the end of the book that is really demonstrative of the fact that they can change their behavior with one another. And
wow.
So that's where it all begins. And Kimberly, we tend to focus as leaders and managers on the performance of others, right? How are they performing? What is their skill level? How productive they are? How accurate they are? How engaged they are in the business? How do they follow up with people? Do they show up on time? Are they setting a good example? Are they producing the right outcomes? And of course, these are very important things in business.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But what I discovered is that those things are not necessarily the deciding factor in a business, because what precedes those things, what precedes the actual performance, the end result of the business is how people behave. So for example, if dad is in the business and he's this sort of very strong leader, and he's very opinionated, and his word is law, and very few people will question him, for example, then that behavior might hold back the business, because other members of the business, particularly family or otherwise, on the management team, will not confront him, will not say, well, wait a minute, Gus, which is the name of the dad in this story.
Okay.
Hey, Gus, wait a minute. That doesn't sound right, because you always say we should do this, and help us understand that. If Gus is open to that, if his behavior is like, okay, let me hear what you have to say. I'm not agreeing with you, but let me hear what you have to say. That behavior is going to produce probably people in the business, particularly leaders, to be more open with him. And then Gus might see their point, or he might not. He might say, hey, I've listened to everyone. I appreciate everyone's input here. Let me tell you why I'm still standing firm on this, so you guys understand where I'm coming from. See, that type of behavior is a far more amenable to gaining results in business and sort of getting people behind us, whereas sort of the behavior of, hey, I'm the boss, you better do it my way.
Oh, okay. So the respectability you're saying that stems from the matriarch of the family is there. So it's already institutionalized within the dynamic of your family. So to take that dynamic and incorporate it into a business, you're saying that that's a plus. So that really is a plus instead of maybe talking to Dad Gus as a subordinate or making him feel less than. So that's a plus to make.
Happens too today. I mean, we know that sort of baby boomers and founders, sometimes they're getting discriminated against.
Yeah,
that's happening too. But I think it's important to recognize what is the behavior that needs to exist in order to cultivate the right kind of performance among the people. And so I think Gus, as the founder, needs to look at himself. And the other members of the management team, particularly in the family. Typically, the family becomes like the managers in a business, in a family business. They need to look at themselves too, because you could have like sort of the revolutionary son.
Yeah.
Or you also have the brilliant daughter who went to school and came back, and she wants to sort of change everything. I have a client like that now, and I have several clients in the past like that.
Wow.
So those are potentially dysfunctional behaviors as well. So it doesn't necessarily emanate from the founder. Certainly they're very influential in a family business, but that kind of a dysfunctional behavior can emanate from anyone in the family or even on the management team. And so we have to be cognizant of our behaviors and how are we behaving. And so we have to ask ourselves the question, Kimberly, as a leader, as a family member who's leading this business, is my behavior producing the right perception and creating the right result in the business? Okay. Now, I can always say, yeah, I've always been right in the past, but you got to throw that out. Is it producing the right result? Because if it's not, that's where we want to look at maybe changing our behavior.
Right. Okay.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, totally, Mark. I just want to let our listeners know once again, we're talking to author Mark Dio. He's written a book, It's Not Mommy and Daddy's Business Anymore, How families members' behavior can ensure family business success. So a wonderful book, because we always talk about passing the baton. But what happens when the family members don't want to be a part? Do they have to be willing and show something that signals to you as a leader in the family that they can be incorporated within the business? Or, because I think it's dissipating, with this new rage of social media. My son believes he can go right online and start his own business, has nothing to do with us. So I was just wondering. God bless him. God bless us. That's what you say. God bless the parent. No, the thing is though, how do we know that our family member is really a candidate to be incorporated within the business?
Well, that's a very good question, because 40% of the family business in America will be passing the reins to the next generation over the next 5 years. And unfortunately, 40% of those families, only 40% survive to the next generation. Only 12 survive to the third, and only 3% survive to the fourth. So what's happening today, and it talks about this here in my book, talks about these statistics that really bring up this sort of concept that, maybe just because we have sons and daughters and cousins and aunts and uncles and nephews, that doesn't necessarily mean they want to inherit our business. Do they have engagement in the business? Do they have a love for the business? And so there's a couple of things that we recommend, obviously, as consultants, because I'm a consultant and I'm a psychologist in this area. And what I recommend to my clients is that in order to have your, let's say, son or daughter become involved in your business, allow them to work in another company that is unrelated to your business, outside your industry if possible. So they're not necessarily learning the industry, but they're learning the kind of behaviors that they need to have as employees of the business. Because a lot of times, sometimes people get involved in a family business thinking, well, this is going to be an easy road. I'm going to pay a lot of money and I don't have to, do too much. And that's not a very good example for the rest of the employees. And so it's important that family members spend some time outside the business. I've seen family members do that and actually say, you know what, I don't really want to be part of the business. I like this industry. I like this company I'm working for. I want to stay in this business. Sometimes they go back to school or that sort of thing. So it's very important that becomes an actual choice of the family member, and that they have had some experience in a business outside the family business.
Yeah, and
seems to work really well.
Yeah, and another big one, I think that especially from micro business, I hear all the time, is how do they fire a family member? You have a family member in the business, and if you didn't know the person, when you fire them, you will never see them again. Usually, they'll go on about their way. But if you fire a family member, you have holidays. You have all.
You're going to face them on the other side of the turkey, right?
Yeah. So how do you, without that conversation coming up around the dinner table? So what's your suggestion? How do we do that when we know this is not for you? You shouldn't be in this business. So how do we do that?
Well, sometimes that is a problem. Sounds like you might have had some personal experience in that, actually, Kimberly. It shouldn't be a surprise when someone is terminated. Okay, so if we're adopting the right leadership precepts and practicing the right leadership behaviors, people should not be surprised when we have to tell them that this job is not going to work out. So we should have had several conversations with this employee or family member, or even partner for that matter, making very clear to them that we're really concerned that they're not pulling their end of the weight. They're not keeping their end of the bargain, and that's why roles and responsibilities that are in writing and reviewed are so important. Even if it's for a partner, even if it's two brothers in the business. It's real, and oftentimes, there are some very large businesses I've worked with, billion-dollar companies. Brothers own the companies, or sisters, or moms and daughters, and they don't have their roles in writing, and so that separation becomes precisely what you say. It turns into a family war, and of course that doesn't make life very pleasant. So it's really critical. So you're asking what to do. So make sure that the family members have agreed upon roles and responsibilities in writing, and that they're kind of looked at every year. Once a year, let's review this. Are you doing this stuff? Are you doing other stuff? Am I doing? Have we kind of like shifted some stuff from you to me or me to you? Let's put it in writing. Let's clarify it. And how you feel I'm doing with my end of the bargain here, and I'm going to tell you how I feel you're doing. When that conversation takes place, Kimberly, then the idea that we need to separate or you're not working out in this business is a lot easier conversation. But oftentimes those things don't happen, right? It shouldn't be a surprise when people are terminated, even in a non-family business.
Yeah. And I want to go back again to your subtitle, how you say ensure family business success. And you say that that's primarily based on behaviors of your family members that are incorporated within the company. But can you talk about maybe a few of those behaviors that lead to profitability? Can you just kind of mention those? So that we know if we see this, then we know, okay, we should be seeing some money to the bottom line because of this behavior. Is the behavior coming to work earlier? Is the behavior, not waiting, to get the paycheck, but really doing more to create more revenue, coming up with ideas? I mean, what are those kind of behaviors?
Sure. Well, I actually, in the book, I actually list those behaviors. And so, so for example, one of the most critical behaviors that we have to maintain as leaders in the business are, controlling the actual spending habits. I see this as an often cited issue that makes family businesses fall apart or contributes to their decline. So that there should be some sort of charter, some sort of agreement as to what are we going to spend money on, and how can we ensure that we get return on investment? Because a lot of times in a family business, people feel that they have a right to spending. I've seen people buy big companies. I've seen them buy planes for themselves. Small companies, I've seen them, just spend 10 grand on nice furniture for their office, right?
Right.
I'm part owner. I'm buying this furniture. So that's one big behavior. So that we have to agree to. And so with businesses, I suggest, in addition to roles and responsibilities, that there's some sort of family business charter. And there's about 15 different areas. I'm obviously not going to all of them right now, but the charter indicates what are the things we should agree upon. And so it talks about just, to list some of them, spending habits, how will we conduct succession in the business? Sometimes, hey, I've been in, we have a son who's been in the business for, 15 years. Not a real high performer, but he's our son, and he's getting by, and he's doing okay, and he thinks because he's the son, he's going to inherit the business.
Right.
So this can cause a lot of friction in the business. So some sort of succession plan as part of the charter. Okay. The values that we're going to live by. I'm talking to you in this interview, but I have a class going on in the other room.
Okay.
My client. No, I'm not. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to go anywhere. I'm with you here as long as you need me.
Okay, good.
I'm only mentioning that because they're doing a value reassessment. So they're right now. They're in the other room. They're in the other room. They're meeting on what are their personal values, what are the current owners' values who are not involved in the company. The owners are down in Orange County right now, and they're talking about what should the new values be. Okay, so they're doing that work, and this is proactive work on the business. And they've worked with us for years, so they already realize that doing this kind of proactive work on the business is so important. But it's part of the family business charter, is to ensure that we have the right values, because values are what drive behaviors, and behaviors are what drive the decisions we make, right?
Right.
And that's what drives performance. That's what drives profit, right?
Right.
So these are just some of the things that we try to help our family business, really try to understand and kind of put in writing and have the management team agree on what are the behaviors that should occur, and how is that going to produce profit in the business. And how will that, maintain the competitive edge in the market? Innovation, right? What is our innovation continuum? Where are we today as we compare ourselves to the competition? And sort of like, where do we need to go to stay ahead of the competition? So a lot of times, family businesses go out of business because they've just done the same thing we do the same thing, Mark. We do the same thing every year. It seems to work out. Okay, well, let's see how that goes. And decades go by in Kimberly, and then ultimately they say, oh, my God, we've hit a brick wall. Well, you didn't plan for, innovating the business as time went on. It doesn't matter. I mean, it could be a flower shop, or it could be a high-tech manufacturing firm with 30 plants around the world, right? It doesn't really matter. You've got to stay competitive, right? And innovation. So these are there's 15 things. These are a couple of the things that family businesses, really should, well, all businesses should, but especially family businesses need to put in a charter for sort of where they're going for the, in the future.
Right. And make sure that everybody's on one page. I think that's so important. Also, bringing in our younger people, because are we open to those hot new technology, social media ideas that can be incorporated, let's say, into a flower shop that the family's owned for years, done the same thing every single year, just like waking up, eating the same breakfast every morning. And some of those routines, family routines, by incorporating family in business, you're going to adapt that. And I was just wondering how strategically, how's that strategic plan devised so that you stay ahead of the game? Let's say with social media, your 18, 19, 20-year-old comes and says, Mom, I think it needs to be done like this because this is what the new millennials, this is what we're interested in. And how do you leverage that?
This is a big issue, and I spent quite a bit of time in the book talking about the different generations and what drives them, particularly in a family business. And so in a family business, you end up having two edges to the sword. Okay, so the one side of the sword is mom and dad, mom or dad, who are very strong leaders. They're founders. They have very strong values and beliefs, and they drive those very hard. Of course, they start to move into their 80s or late 70s or 90s, and they realize, well, my son and daughter are now becoming more involved in making decisions, and so they have to be listening harder. Okay, that's one edge of the sword. Now, the other edge of the sword is that we have, the new generation, millennials, and now the Z generation, right, which is the post-millennial generation, entering the workforce, and they have a lot of strong beliefs, social beliefs about how society should operate, how businesses should operate, even. They have political beliefs, and so these oftentimes run against what the baby boomers and the sort of that older generation founders believe.
Yeah.
They have to be willing to listen to what
listen. That's the key word, listen there. We're running out of time, Mark.
You are listening.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Mark, we're running out of time. I just want to get to your story, your backstory. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself and how do we get the book?
Sure, yeah. Well, getting the book is pretty easy. You just go to Amazon.com and you type in, "It's not mommy and daddy's business anymore." Okay, and the book will pop up when you do that on Amazon.com. Right?
Okay.
Now the other thing, you can put in Mark Dio, but you might have to search around because I'm not, obviously, I didn't write Harry Potter, so I don't come up with that. But it's not mommy and daddy's business. It's pretty easy to remember. It's not mommy and daddy's business.
Yeah.
Put that in and you'll get the book, and it's available both in Kindle form for $3.99, big investment there. Or it's $20 to buy the actual book. It's actually pretty cool. The book is pretty cool because it is color and it's illustrated and it's
awesome.
It's illustrated and it has a little story in it, but the Kindle's pretty cool too. So either way, that's how you get it. So, obviously I am a business consultant.
Okay.
And that's what I do. And I specialize in family business. Okay. I actually have a certification as a family business consultant. I just did a PhD specializing in organizational psychology, family business.
Wow.
That'll get you, if you tell them that.
Dr. Dio.
You get an extra cup. I get a cap for your cup.
Oh, good.
But I've worked with 128 family businesses now. So
wow,
that's all I've done.
All right. Okay, Mark.
That's about me.
Okay, we love the book. Again, Mark Dio, wonderful book. It's not mommy and daddy's business anymore. How family member behavior can ensure family business success. Thanks, Mark, so much.
You bet, Kimberly. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, thank you. Listen, we want to thank the Southern Nevada Water Authority, Power 88, KCEP, and Las Vegas Black Image Magazine, and also F. White with Media Marketing Consultant. He's doing a little YouTube taping of Enterprising People, so thank you, Mr. White, for all of your assistance. We really appreciate that. And again, get your Las Vegas Black Image Magazine, and you can get it to your home at lvrj.com/blackimage. You can have it delivered every month to your home. I want to thank you and you too for being enterprising people.